Hey, what's going on, listeners? And thanks for tuning in to Chilling on the Front Porch with Rod, a podcast where real conversations meet cultural wisdom. Inspired by Front Porch Talks with his grandmother, Rod helps listeners navigate life through powerful storytelling and authentic dialogue rooted in his Geechee Gullah heritage. This is where culture meets conversation, front porch style. Hey, what's going on, folks? And thanks for tuning in to the first season of Chilling on the Front Porch with Rod. Hey, this podcast is dedicated to my grandmother and how we used to sit on the front porch, and she used to tell me different things and teach me just the ways of life through our culture. Kind of like, she'd say stuff like, hey, don't go in them people's store teething, you come back home, make sure them clothes clean, because you ain't come back home looking suddy and like you ain't got no home training. And my mama just do the same thing. So the term suddy means dirty because the soot out of the chimney. Thief is the shortened version of the word thief, but it's not no damn ebonics. It's how we say the word thief, and we're going to talk about our language and stuff like that later on. But I want to set us up for success as we talk about our Geechee Gullah heritage throughout this podcast, because we're going to sit on the front porch with special guests, interviews, you name it. We're going to have a whole vibe going on. But folks, today, we're just going to journey down south through the soul and the soil to preserve the Gullah Geechee culture to the Lowcountries of the Carolinas and Georgia, so we can explore the heart of our culture, our history, our music, our mouth-watering rice dishes. Because everybody always ask me, man, you eat a lot of rice with everything. I said, well, that's part of my heritage, man. We eat rice, okra soup, lima bean, all that, man. And then guess what? We got that spirit. There's this bone out there in West Africa and Central Africa as well. But guess what, man? We're just gonna start it off with the origins. Like, who are the Gullah people? You know what I'm saying? Who are the Geechee people? Well, when I was growing up, we learned some Cap Hatteras, North Carolina, down to about Brunswick, Georgia, because of the old Geechee corridor. All that was where the slaves traveled at. You can look it up on the map. You'll see it. It's just like right there on the inlets coming up really through Savannah, our sister city down there. But some scholars you'll hear say the real Gullah Geechee culture is found in an area that extends for like several hundred miles between Cape Fear in North Carolina and St. Johns River in North Florida. That area is just home to North America's most distinctive culture, which is us. Just be real, we still got our native tongue. Being descendants of slaves, we still was able to like keep our folkwear, our crafts, our traditions. And you go to different islands down there, like St. Helena Island in South Carolina, you will really see how we were such a great people during a time of such massive oppression. But again, in the 18th century and having that Atlantic slave trade, where 40% of I'd probably say over 40% of the slaves came to British North America at the time, because there was 13 colonies. Like, we had a plant called indigo. We used to sell indigo to the British Navy, hence the term Navy Blue. That plant's still alive and well today in South Carolina, owned by our own fam, our own culture, our own fam. We don't need nobody else to come and infiltrate that. But that was one of the biggest things that we had. And then, basket weaving. You go down to Charleston, South Carolina, you'll see down at the market, young children and their grandparents, that you can see the ancestral, generational teachings. They still make those. And that's pretty cool. But that's just some of the little background history right there, man. But I want y'all to hear an audio clip from Miss Carolyn, who speaks the language and tells you some background stuff, the culture, and why we're so great. Actually, in fact, used to listen to the stories she told coming up, because we actually had these folktale story sessions in our elementary schools. But they took that away from us as well, as these schools changed their curriculum. But nonetheless, we still are very effective in teaching our youth, especially her. So just tune in right quick and listen to Miss Carolyn as she talks some stuff about our Geechee Gullah heritage.
So my name is Carolyn Jabulile White. I'm one of Charleston's Gullah storyteller. I do a lot of Gullah storytelling because I would love for the children to know more about their heritage, about the language, to be proud of it like I am. Very proud of my culture, my language, my ancestors, period. Because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be standing where I am today. And so it's really important to me that we remember that, remember the culture, remember some of the things that I do, going way back. And I like to tell the children about different things. Like they didn't even know, like how we cook good old okra soup and lima beans and pigtail and pig feet. A lot of people don't even know about the pig feet thing. I said, what? I said, that was good. But you see, we had those things and Maddo cooked them things because those are the things most of them threw away on the plantation. When it was butchering time, those things they didn't want. The old people, ancestors, the slaves, as you would call them, would preserve and take those things to cook with, the bone. And now, guess what? That's what everybody want to know now, how we cook with damn bone and make things so good, like the neck bone.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. As he talk about the bones and stuff. Yeah, I remember my grandmama being in the kitchen with my grandmama cooking Hoppin' John, which the bone off of the smoked ham hock, seasons the rice with the beans, or the peas rather. But we'll walk down the recipe further in the episode. One of the great recipes that we got with Hoppin' John, something we ate with the collard greens during New Year's. The Hoppin' John was for good luck, and then the collard greens were for good fortune and prosperity. But yeah, which lead me to talk about the language itself, the cultural identity piece, and the land. So one of the things this article talks about is that although a British colony, talking about the Bahamas, from 1670 to independence in 1973, culturally and linguistically, the character and personality of the Bahamian people owe much to the Gullah people who live in the coastal islands offshore South Carolina and Georgia. Today, the English spoken by average working class Bahamian is close to the Gullah dialect, so much so that Bahamian migrant workers who found their way to American South as farm workers on the contract during and after the Second World War could melt right into the local population at the drop of a phrase because they could talk Geechee really good. So we say idioms like day clean means dawn, like the day is clean, and directly, I'll be over there directly. Directly means soon or whenever, and that's something that's common in Nassau, Bahamas, where my brother from, in Charleston. The article further says that, talks about how the Gullahs and their mainland cousins, the Geechees, were first brought from Africa to the isolated sea islands off the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and until fairly recently, their communities in the coastal region of islands, marshes, placid rivers, and expansive wetlands had settled little change. The Gullahs, as they are called by others, are direct descendants of Africans coming mostly from the ethnic group of West Africa and the Bantu of Central Africa. The word Gullah is believed to be a shortened form of Angola or Angola. There is no difference in the linguistic structure of Gullah and Sea Island Creole, Creole, than that spoken in the Caribbean and Africa. Now, I'd like to add on to that piece. We hear the word Creole of French origin that's very similar to the dialect and influence as the French had in Louisiana during the Louisiana Purchase. So sometimes people ask me if I'm from Louisiana. I'm like, no, I'm from South Carolina. I'm like, oh, you Geechee? I'm like, yeah, and then the conversation goes on. But Krio is the dialect spoken in Sierra Leone, which is in West Africa and where we get a lot of our rice recipes from. But yeah, I just wanted to, walk down a light little journey down south in the Lowcountry in the Carolinas before we get into the flavors of Africa, our rices and recipes. When you hear about Carolina gold rice, Sea Island red peas, man, these are staples that represent a culinary memory system of our Gullah cooks. The methods of how we prepare, hand washing the rice multiple times. You don't stir much, but I remember sitting at the table doing snap peas and all that, very when we clean it, how we clean collard greens. I remember actually cleaning collard greens. My grandmama had a rag, right? There was a dish rag. It was the only rag you could use to clean the dang on collard greens. You ain't using a regular rag now. Very scornful lady too. So we sit at the table, right? Open up every leaf of the greens and wipe it with a rag, a bowl of water, warm water, with a mild, I think she put like a drop of joy in there or something like that. And then, it ain't soapy or nothing. Just wiping them down, boom, 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 plucking the little black piece out, the worm out, whatever that thing is that crawl around the daggone greens. Then we just do the snap peas. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna get into some of that here after this short break. Hey listeners, and thanks for tuning in with Chilling on the Front Porch with Rod. While we're on this short break, I want you to think about a few questions. I want us to really think about the preservation and the cultural heritage that we have right in front of us. Well, we got gatekeepers, griots, and then you got Google. But who's really telling our story? So ask yourself a few questions as you listen to the rest of this podcast. Who do you trust more with our stories? Elders or institutions? How do we stop our history from being a hashtag? Can tech save our culture or will it sell it? What can we learn from Gullah Geechee resistance? And if you build a black cultural database, what's your first upload? We have to teach our youth the technology as well. As we can see, there's an AI battle out there. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta get with the program as well, but there's also cultural preservation and keeping our historical and cultural context in place and being taught correctly. So again, listeners, thanks for tuning in with this short break. Just keep those questions in mind as you listen to the rest of this podcast while we're chilling on the front porch. Hey, welcome back, listeners. We're chilling on the front porch with Rod. I'd like to go back real quick on a couple of things just to highlight some very key facts, right? So when we're talking about the word Gullah itself, it was, some scholars have it where the word Gullah comes from Angola or Angola. But one of the things I like to highlight is that the origin of the word Gullah can also be traced back to the Kikongo language that's spoken around the Congo's river, around the Congo River. This is part of the Angola piece, where the ancestors of many of the Gullah people originated. But I just wanted to put that out, and then, of course, we know all of that stuff, kind of culminated down at the port of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. But a very, very huge staple inside our heritage was the Civil War period. That period was very, very influential because during the U.S. Civil War, of course, it's Union versus Confederate. The Union was doing a shipping blockade on the Confederates, of course, because on the islands, sea islands, on the coastal coastal areas that, with those plantations, I meant to say, that was a critical movement for the Union. But while doing so, there were white planters that were on those sea islands, and those sea islands was where Gullah people were enslaved. And when the white folks left, those slave owners left to flee to the mainland, the Union settled on those sea islands in 1861 and found our people still wanting to express their freedom and fight for their rights and defend themselves. So they joined the Union Army and formed one of the first, called the 1st South Carolina Colored Infantry Regiment. Our Gullah folks was a part of that Union Army piece to help fight for the freedom. Now, in those sea islands, that was also considered the first place in the South where we had free slaves. But way before the war was over, there was a missionary group that came down from Pennsylvania that came and helped start with education. Because remember, Pennsylvania was also a 13 colony owned by the British. So they made their way down to South Carolina, and then into the sea islands, and they developed the Penn Center, which is now a cultural hub on the island of St. Helena Island in South Carolina. And that was the first school for the free slaves. So I just wanted to highlight some of those aspects, as we talked about earlier, a lot of the heritage with some of the connections with the Bahamians, which we still have a lot of connection with them too when it comes to food and some other things. But speaking of food, we're going to go into the flavors of Africa with these rice recipes, man. I know you ever heard about the Carolina gold rice and the Sea Island red peas. Well, the red peas is a critical ingredient inside our Hoppin' John. But the staples in our community of our food is a culinary memory system of the Gullah cooks. As you heard earlier with Miss Carolyn talking about how we had to use the scraps and create meals out those scraps. And now our recipes have gotten better with those things. But the methods of preparation is critical too, because like we talked about, the rice, hand washing the rice multiple times, and the way you clean certain things has been passed down for numerous generations. I still right now remember what me and my granny did in the kitchen. Some tricks of the trade my mom taught me as well. And every Thanksgiving I make my grandmother's sweet potato pie the way she make it, with her spin on it. Everybody's sweet potato pie don't taste like that, but it's off the chain. Just saying. Anyway, so just to let you know how, let's just say how Hoppin' John, right? So Hoppin' John is something that is a very classic dish in our heritage. That's a dish that we eat during New Year's for good luck. With collard greens, that's for prosperity piece. Now we don't eat Hoppin' John and collard green all throughout the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Typically it's just a New Year's thing. Again, for prosperity, good luck coming into the New Year. Now with the Hoppin' John, you gotta have your smoked ham hock. You gotta have onions, your bell peppers. You can have some garlic. You gotta have your red peas. Now you can substitute the red peas with black-eyed peas, but it ain't gonna give you the same oomph. It ain't gonna give you the same color, because our Hoppin' John is all in one pot after all said and done, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful maroon burgundy color, right? And then you have to have some vinegar, because you want to boil your ham hock prior to anything else to get it tender. Now you can do that for about 40 minutes to an hour. Some say less, some say more. To each his own. But that ham hock gotta be cleaned, then cooked and tender. Put the vinegar in the water and then boil it and let it get tender right quick. Now me personally, I drain that water and then I put in fresh water and then start the boil piece again, and then that's when I'll add in my onions, bell pepper, and garlic. Let that go on for a little bit, and then once that start to boil and get where it needs to get, then I'll add in some more dry spices like onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, cayenne pepper, and so forth. Now, I can't give you all the secrets. There's other ingredients. You got to go down to the market in Charleston, South Carolina, and stop by and get our seasonings in those satchel bags. Those are original seasonings off the farms of our Gullah farm owners that are still growing seasons to this day. Now, once you done put that powder stuff in there and it's nice and boiling, it's good. Now you can taste the water, make sure it's nice to season to taste. Then you add the peas. Make sure there's enough water to add the peas. You cover it. The peas get tender too. You keep checking them to make sure they get to a nice tender, not soggy and not crunchy. Then, once you get that right, then you add in the rice. The rice must be washed prior to as well, because we kind of knock off some of that starch. You put that rice in the water turns kind of cloudy. You don't want to get that rice till that water is clear. Now, you add that rice to the pot and you cover it, and then you let it cook for about 30 minutes or so. And that's your Hoppin' John right there. Now, that's the short, sweet version of it. Again, if you want to see how this is really done, you can go check out my man Chef BJ Dennis of Charleston, South Carolina on YouTube. And he got plenty of coverage on how to make these good recipes. There's a book I'll mention later on, also is a nice recipe book for some of our Gullah heritage signature dishes. Now, with that being said, with the food also comes good folktale stories and songs and spirit and all of that, right? So sometimes when we're eating or sitting out on the front porch, we would get, folktale stories told to us. We don't always watch TV and all that. So one of the stories is Brer Rabbit. That just sticks in my head. Y'all might know him as Peter Rabbit, but that's not the right one. That's the commercial version. That ain't it. What it really is again preserving our heritage and our folktale languages that stem out of Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and so forth. Brer Rabbit was like a trickster. He was this rabbit that was in with bruh fox, bruh bear, all them in their environment. But with our language, with our stories, is there's a moral. So what things that went on in that story are life lessons that happen in real life. And some may say that Bruh Rabbit represented the enslaved Gullah folks during those 17th, 18th, and 19th century, if you will, that had to use their wit. They had to be real smart and innovative to alleviate some of the pressures that the oppressors was putting on them, like how to get the food and sneak and get that stuff and, escape, get education, speak this language amongst ourselves that they don't understand. We communicated this, our Geechee Gullah language amongst ourselves, so, some of the words be like, like we talked about earlier, he does teeth, he steals. So we would say things like that amongst ourselves. Mash up, break, hurt, or destroy. Me one, me alone, only me. He rig a plan. He made a plan. He took a fish. He speared a fish. And it can get into religious pieces too. I won't go into that piece, but we actually have a Gullah Geechee Bible too that's out there. You can look it up as well. I add that in the comment section. When you go to the YouTube channel, I have all that, and down there you can look it up. But one thing we must understand is preservation of our legacy, even now to this day, our modern legacy, because the language has evolved to things like, you go down to Charleston or Savannah, you might hear something like, man, that boy, they fool up. Well, fool up means you ain't right in the mind. Like something's off about you. You're a little odd or something like that. Or them boy, they flam. Flam means that you can't be trusted. Like if I ask you to do something and you don't show up, then you flam. And some other terms, we use, down there, but when you go and listen to it, you really get a good kick out of it, because one of the things is having conversations amongst our people still to this day. Hence why I'm so happy that we have our native tongue. Now, when it comes to the food, again, we share some like qualities with the Bahamians. Like Bahamians are known to have a way with fish, fried fish, baked, steamed, tomato gravy, stewed or boiled. They use grunts, red snapper, groupers, mackerels, porgies, turbos, and they eat barracuda too. Now, we don't eat barracuda down there in Charleston because we don't got that kind of stuff in our water like that. But you get some alligator, you get some frog leg. My grandma used to make her fish and grits. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get shrimp and grits. And there's always that thing with grits. Sugar versus butter. Butter, no sugar. Sugar, no butter. Man, you never got two things that match. No Kool-Aid, no sugar. But no, it's like that. But we're real proud of that. Conch, big thing that the Bahamians eat. And the Caribbeans in general, down in Miami, they eat it too. They got the fritter, but you can go to restaurants in Charleston and Savannah where they serve grits with breakfast. You can go to Hyman's, popular restaurant down there, the Charleston Crab House, all that stuff down there on King Street and whatnot. And then there's some other restaurants too. You can go down there, I think it's Rodney's Barbecue. That's a nice barbecue spot. But anyway, yeah, get a chance to go down to Charleston, man, and experience some of that stuff, you know what I mean? Because it ain't just history. It's living and it's breathing, right? Like I said before, I always tell people, they're like, what is Geechee? You Geechee, you Gullah? And I'm like, man, first of all, let's put some respect on the name. Let's put some respect on the heritage. I'm not you nothing. I am a part of a unique group of people, okay? Now let's educate yourself and then find out where this thing lies and where it comes from. Because the Atlantic slave trade, aka the Middle Passage, was very, very, I guess you say, a very, very important piece of history for us, because that's the traveling piece of how we got to the land, how we got to North America during the British colonial days. But the Gullah Geechee people today, we host a lot of cultural festivals like Hilton Head's Gullah celebration. And there's plenty of schools and organizations in the Lowcountry that work tirelessly to keep language, arts, and crafts alive. There's tours down there in Charleston when you go down there. And then you can also go and check out some of the downtown heritage. You can still see the horse and carriage buggy. There's the beautiful museum that opened up in the summer of 2023, I believe. The International African American Museum, where you get to see all of this heritage, pictures, artifacts from West Africa and everything. I mean, even they got pictures of trips that we took from Charleston to Sierra Leone in the early 90s and so forth. There's been a lot of things that came about over the years, and now we still able to witness it and teach our children. Because I often like to go back home and go down and see the Four Corners of Law, go down to the French Quarters, go down to the market and see our heritage. Now, there's also the Black Charleston. Man, that thing is booming. Go on Instagram or TikTok and look up the Black Charleston. I mean, it is off the chain. We have so many artists, performers, business owners, Fortune 500 company, bigwigs, doctors, nurses, medical field professionals of all sorts. Definitely check out the Black Charleston, man. I mean, we got the big food truck event that goes on in Charleston as well, where you get all that good eating. Man, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. So check it out. So what's the big takeaway? Just a reminder that our culture survives. And when it's actively shared, you get to really experience, again, the story, the music, the community, the language, and the food. But I ask you listeners, when you get a chance, and you in the Charleston, South Carolina area, even if you're in Georgia, you get a chance to come up, Florida, North Florida, whatever. Stop by and visit the Penn Center on St. Helena Island, the first school for freed slaves, now a cultural hub. Also, you can go online and pick up this book that I was telling you about when we were talking about the Hoppin' Johns, with plenty of our recipes in there. Emily Maggott's Gullah Cookbook. And then, hey, support the local Gullah Festival across South Carolina and Georgia. But, hey, that's a wrap from the Lowcountry. If you're ever cruising down the coast, kick back, catch a Gullah festival, scoop up some red peas and rice, and remember, culture stays alive on the front porch. I'm Rod, and I'll be chilling with you next week. Thanks for tuning in, listeners. Have a great one. Out of there. Hey listeners, as we come to a close of this episode of the first season for Chilling on the Front Porch with Rod, I'd like to have some sources highlighted so that you can continue learning about our Gullah Geechee heritage. So for historical and cultural context, you can go to the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Museum, or you can visit their website at https://GullahGeecheeCorridor.org. Of course, you can go to Wikipedia. The Penn Center Historic Landmark has www.penncenter.com. For language and music, you can go look into National Geographic, a song that survived slavery. You also have Lorenzo Turner with Africanisms in Gullah Dialect, University of South Carolina Press. For food and culinary heritage, again, Emily Maggott, the Gullah Geechee Home Cooking Cookbook. Smithsonian Folk Life Festival, Gullah Culinary Traditions. Arts and storytelling, you can go and check out the Coastal Heritage Society, Gullah Heritage, at www.chsgeorgia.org/Gullah-Geechee. You can check out also Sapelo Island Cultural and Revitalization Society at SapeloIslandGA.com. Preservation and modern initiatives, you can look up the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act, U.S. National Park Service at www.nps.gov/GUGE/index.htm. And the blog inspiration came from the Gullah Geechee Connection and the WordPress at the GullahGeecheeConnection.wordpress.com. And a big shout out to some of the Bahamian folks that are famous today. Everybody knows Sir Sidney Poitier out of The Cat Island, Joseph Spence, folk guitarist out of Andros. James Weldon Johnson, we know for our African-American national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. We know about Burt Williams, famous for his vaudeville act of Williams and Walker, had his roots in San Salvador. King Curtis, who known for his soulful saxophone, who underscored Aretha Franklin's greatest hits, also has roots in Rowville, Exuma. Rowville, Exuma is quite unique because Rowville is also the home of Good Times, Esther Rowe, and Roxy Roker. Again, folks, thanks for tuning in with Chilling on the Front Porch with Rod.